to that folder. Okay. All right, chat. Blah blah blah. Are you a streamer? During COVID, yes. I would like to again, but I got a full-time job and there's some other things I'm doing. I'm in and it takes way too much time to do it properly. But I will eventually again. We got this indeed. No end in class, obviously, unless the power goes out. Are you teaching us what we're talking about in the video? Yes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the video, and then I'm going to continue with the readings and arguments and that stuff today. That's the plan. However, I will say really quick that I know I haven't graded your stuff yet. This was a busy week last week and weekend. It's just some stuff, so I didn't get to it. I should have everything graded by the beginning of class on Thursday. That's my goal. So I do apologize. I'm not usually this late, but I will try to get that done. And I had just a very quick look at stuff. So I'm going to save some comments for after I look through your what you turned in and after I graded and all that. But I do want to say some things. I want to give you sort of a bigger picture overview of why we looked at that, what the reasons were, and what I think was or should have been accomplished in the video and the readings. So first thing I want to sort of point out here is, and you can confirm for me, you can confirm this for me, but one thing is it might seem like an unlikely pairing of that video and that piece by Nick Byrd, that small piece. Now, when I saw that video, right? I had already been very familiar with the Nick Byrd piece, and it's very short. It's obviously geared towards students. You know, it's obviously incomplete. There's much more he could have said, but for what it is, I think it's really good, and he makes his points fairly nicely. And it was last semester. It was like a week before class started. I was here in my studies. I was just watching YouTube. It was like midnight. I was having a beer and I was watching YouTube, right? And I'm a classical musician, or was anyway, but that was the first part of my life. And I listen to metal. I'm not a big fan of Metallica. I never really was. I like sort of heavier stuff and whatever, but I know that album, and you know they hold a special place in music history and my childhood and all that. So I'm like, what the hell, man? Here's a classical musician, never seen rock. Let's watch the video. It'll be fun. And I'm watching it, and I don't know, 15 minutes in, I'm like, this is amazing. And it was her reaction. And by the time I finished the video, I'm like, I'm using this in my class because of what I think she does. And I immediately thought of, I had just kind of finished preparing for class. Again, this was last semester. And I was familiar with that Nick Byrd piece. And I just immediately thought of that Nick Byrd piece. And she emulates everything that Nick Byrd is asking you to do. And again, feel free to speak up at any time. I guess I should probably move my chat box. All right. Feel free to speak up at any time here. But come on, where'd chat go? There it is. But let me point out a few things about what she does. First of all, Nick Byrd tells you, well, okay, let's do this. There's basically two parts to that video. The first part is just her raw reaction, her initial raw reaction to what she's experiencing. It's emotional. It's reactive. It was like minute I want to say 17:20. She claims that she's overwhelmed. She's psychologically overwhelmed by this. A few seconds earlier, I think it's like minute 17:12. I'm doing this from memory, so forgive me if double check me here. But uh, a few seconds before that, I think at minute 17:12, she says that it's all unfamiliar to her. She's very much out of place here. And she has a reaction. She's fumbling around, and she's trying to figure things out and do what she can with what she knows, given the initial experience. Then I forget what minute, but it cuts off and she comes back. It's been a few days later, and she's watched the video now, and she's listened to the song several times now. And she comes back, and her whole disposition has changed. She's calm, she's thoughtful, she's clear, and she's structured. And she's factual. She's not supposing things. She's not trying to give a lot of hypotheticals like she was in the beginning. Now she's talking very factually and very calmly, and she's demonstrating the things that she's talking about. And in order to do that, look at Nick Byrd's 3 tips, right? The first one of which is forget what you believe. I forget how he words it, but he says something like that. Forget what you believe. She had in many ways to suspend her normal way of going about doing things. Right? Now she's a musician, and like it or not, I don't know how you feel about these things, but Metallica are musicians. There's all different types of musicians, and you don't have to be a formally trained professional musician, in order to be a musician. There's different types of musicians. And Metallica is music. Whether you like it or not, like whether you like the band or not, and whether you like the fact that they're musicians or not, they are. And this is important. She's a musician. Her job, her thing in life is music. And she's a teacher. She teaches music. She has students, and so on. In that capacity, it would serve her well to know, and I'm using that word specifically, to know as much about music as you can. I think you would all agree. If you're a plumber, you should probably know as much about plumbing as you can, and so on. And here, she'd never listened to an entire genre of music. She had never listened to it before until now. She takes her time, she looks at it, she suspends her normal beliefs in things where she might normally turn her nose or not even listen to it, or even probably make an off comment about how noisy it is or ridiculous, even though she didn't say ridiculous. She did talk about how noisy it was in the video. I thought that was funny, but she sets that aside, and she takes something and she approaches it calmly and rationally, and she learns something. By the time the video ends, she knows more about her discipline than she did before. Now, I don't know about you, but where I come from, and in my world, and as far as I personally am concerned, I care about how much I know about stuff, and whether what I know or not is true, or whether it's not, and what my reasons are for why I think certain things are true. Now that's going just slightly a little bit beyond what she was doing in the video, but but so I digress. Let me come back here. But I care about those things. And with that attitude of kind of forgetting what you know, she's able to approach something she doesn't like and still doesn't like, and learn something, expand her worldview, and learn more about the subject that she knows than she did before, that she can probably use in the future to help navigate the world in a different way. And she still doesn't like it, but she appreciates it, and more importantly, she understands it. Does that make sense to you? Now, no one's responding to me, so you're either not listening or whatever. I would, if you can respond, but
I was gonna ask.
yeah.
I was trying to let you finish, but I wanted to let you. I was trying to ask. So basically, empathy is essentially something that you need to be able to do this properly.
So I think empathy is the wrong word, right? So you have apathy, sympathy, and empathy, right? So apathy is the sort of lack of feeling toward other people, right? Sympathy is when you're sympathetic with someone, you don't you don't purport to have an exact understanding of what they're feeling or going through, but you act in a way that you are supportive of how they're feeling and so on. When you're empathetic, strictly speaking, empathetic means being aware of not just being aware of what they're feeling, but having some experience of the exact thing that they're feeling. And so I couldn't be empathetic with, say, a pregnant mother, but I a pregnant mother, that's redundant. A pregnant female. I couldn't be empathetic with that, but I can be sympathetic with that. Does that make sense? I could be partially empathetic with a mother, partially, right? I could be fully empathetic with a father. Does that make sense to you? So not empathy, but you're right. What it takes is a will. So you remember last time when I said you've got to be willing to change your mind about something? That's what we're talking about. An openness to the fact that you are not necessarily right about things, meaning that the things you believe in aren't necessarily true. They might be. The question is how do you know that? What's your standard of evidence, you might say? And so what her name is Amy Shafer in the video. What Amy Shafer did is she stepped back from something she felt very strongly about. She doesn't like metal and wouldn't normally listen to it. She stepped back. She was open. She let those feelings of discomfort and uneasiness and unfamiliarity and being psychologically overwhelmed, she let that in. She let herself experience that and then took several days. She took time and she used the structure that she had in place, meaning her knowledge of music, to help her understand what was in front of her better. And in doing so, she increased her knowledge of the world. She has a different attitude about the thing that she was studying. She still doesn't like it, but with that knowledge and attitude, she's stronger and is able to do more in her field of music than she was before. And I would argue she's probably able to engage with people in the world better, even outside of music, just because she knows and understands this stuff better. And she still doesn't like it. I mean, meaning the music. Does that make sense? Is that clearer?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Now, um, someone in another class said that is this is this really a comparison? And what he was taught. Well, okay. I guess I jumped the gun here. So let me say this first. Sorry, I'm excited. I'm skipping steps. Okay, now this is just a dumb little song, right? You can live a rich, full life without ever having listened to Metallica. I understand that. Like, in some sense, who cares, right? Okay, fine. But here's my point. Yeah, it's just a dumb little song, but what about things that matter to us? What about things like justice and fairness? Concepts like love and democracy? The big, big things that we care about. What about what concepts like personhood, what constitutes a person or a citizen or whatever? What about the things that we actually live and die for, that we kill people over for conceptually? What about those things? Right? Now, some of you, I'm willing to guess, when you were uh, were watching the video or when you were reading the Nick Byrd piece, probably had strong reactions. I'm assuming that probably not many people here like metal. And like when Amy was when Miss Shafer was watching that video, you remember that moment. Um, if you remember the song, you remember how it starts off. It's kind of calm and relaxing with an electric guitar, but without the distortion. And then I don't know, it's like 12 seconds later, it starts in with that really heavy riff. And you remember her reaction? She was like shocked, right? Um, you know, you might have had a reaction like she did to that music. Or when you read Nick Bird's piece and his first thing tells you, forget what you know. And I say this because students have these reactions. Like this is, obviously not the first time I've done this, so I kind of know what to expect here. But you might have had a negative reaction like, who is he to tell me to forget what I already believe? Right? What I believe is part of who I am. And here's some stranger that you're reading telling you, forget what you. What was that? Oh, you know what? That's that noise I was complaining about last time, and that is it's a setting. Did you hear that beep at all? No. Okay. It was
Not
really
really.
it's really loud. My speakers are right here. Like that hurt my ears. I set a setting that when someone joins, um, it makes that beeping sound, and I just realized that's what it is. That is loud. I'm gonna have to take that off. I won't do it now because I don't remember where the setting is, but yeah, that's gonna happen again, I'm sure. Sorry about that. That was really loud. And I'm telling you, this is so my phone is going off and now it stopped. Unbelievable. And there's nothing showing. There see, look, like nothing's happening on my phone. And yet it's going, I don't know. I don't know what, and I can't turn it off. All right, I'm turning my phone off. I don't know what is happening today. I am having this technological freak out.
It's the rain outside.
It's something, man. It is something. Anyway, I apologize. You might have had a similar reaction. Who is this person to tell me to forget what I believe in? Or even your reaction to the music that you listen to. You don't like it. A student react. I have a list of student reactions, and one of the reactions is why are we listening to Metallica in an introduction to philosophy class? And I get these reactions, and so we watch this stuff to portray what it is to be a critical reasoner. So I'm going to go to extremes here, and there's stuff in between, but this is what I say. Like regarding the big things, justice, equity, fairness, love, citizenship, the big things that matter to us. Or whether it's abortion or political stuff or religious stuff, the big things in our lives that really do affect us. You can be one of two different types of people, and there's a range here. I'm just being extreme to make a point. You can be like person A, who says, and I get this all the time. This happens to me all the time. People will tell me, there's nothing you're going to do that's ever going to change my mind. I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to do. First of all. Second of all, if you're that type of person, so if Miss Shafer were that type of person, she would have just passed on by. She would have learned nothing. And she would have known less about her discipline and other people than she does now. Type A person here is yeah, R&B or whatever, right? Yeah, exactly. Like type A is, go ahead, who's talking?
Excuse me, can you see that her reaction was not emotional, was logical?
In the first part of the video, part of her emotion was emotional. Sorry, part of her reaction was emotional. She reacted very strongly, and go check out minute 17:20. Go back to the video 17:20. Fast forward, and that's and maybe a little bit before that. She says she's unfamiliar and she's overwhelmed. She is psychologically overwhelmed. She has from the very beginning an emotional reaction to this, but she's able to overcome it through the use of reason and logic. Absolutely. And so this is what I'm saying. You can be like person A who just like, nope, I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to engage it. I don't like it. And look, it's your life. Do what you want. But I'm here to suggest that maybe if you care about knowledge and whether what you believe is actually true or not, that's not the best attitude to have. Or you can be like person B who says, you know what? This seems important. I'm going to have a look at it. I don't like it, but I'm going to see what I can do, and I'm going to try to understand something. And if I end up changing my mind, then I change my mind. And if I don't, fine, I'm still going to learn something. And there's variations in between that. There's not only these two choices, but again, to make the point, you have this type of person and this type of person. I'm urging you to be this type of person. And if you look at what Nick Byrd tells you, that's what those three things are about. Tip number 3 is use the tools of philosophy. That's logic and argumentation. That's what we're going to look at next. Amy, so I keep doing that. I don't even know her. I'm calling her by first name. Miss Shafer talks about, she uses her skills, her tools, which are musical tools, understanding the structure of music, to work through what she's being presented with, that song. And that's how she's going to come to understand it. And then she's added to that toolbox of hers. There's more things that she understands now and that she can work with than she did before. She added to her toolbox of how to deal with the world. And that's what Nick Byrd is asking you to do. That's what I'm asking you to do. And if you took that Shafer video seriously, that's what she's doing. And so the reason we watch that is to show you what it's like, to show you someone going through the process of what Nick Byrd is asking you to do. And you go again, you go from emotional and reactive to calm and reasonable, where you end up in a state of understanding something. That's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. And she still doesn't like the music, and yet she can appreciate it and learn something from it. Right? I mean, look, again, it's your life. Live it how you want, right? I can't force you, and even if I could, I wouldn't. It would defeat the purpose. But if you take that seriously, then I think you're going to see the same thing that I see as you continue to think about your own intellectual development. All right, let me get to chat here really quick. What did I miss? It went back and forth between peaceful and heavy. Yeah. That's how it started. I like how she was confused at first, but understood the message. So that was another thing, right? Is she spent a lot of time with the relationship between the words and the music. And she realized something about that she realized there is a relationship. And that helped her understand it. And the words are serious. It's about the corruption of justice. And the metaphor is justice being raped, Lady Justice being raped. It is a violent, forceful thing as a metaphor, but in real life, the corruption of justice is a real thing that affects people. I mean, it doesn't get more serious than that. And when she realizes what the song was about, she's able to make a connection with the meaningfulness of the music. I don't like R&B, but I'm open to it. Yeah, sure. And if you're open to it in the way that Miss Schaffer was open to it, you might actually. I don't want to presume what you know or don't know about R&B and music and all that, or other people for that matter. But if you're open to it the way Miss Schaffer was, you're going to learn something, and you're going to learn something meaningful about the world. Sorry. Yeah. Not just for music. You're right. That's what this is about. This isn't about just the music. This is about like important things in your life. It's a mindset. Miss Shafer represents an attitude, what I think is a philosophical attitude. And I thought it was brilliant. And it was completely unexpected because I was just hanging out at night having a beer watching YouTube. And this ended up being a really important thing for me. So, yay. Okay. There's some more things to say, but I'm going to save that until next time. Okay. Any other comments, questions? So her reaction. Yeah. Yeah. Watch her reaction at the beginning and compare it to her reaction toward the end. And you might watch some later videos, some more recent videos, and notice her reaction. Like she doesn't react that way anymore. She's still emotional, obviously, but she doesn't, like, I mean, all of us are, right? But she doesn't react that way anymore. I've watched some of her subsequent videos, and you know, her reactions are more tempered, and she knows more what to expect, and she can deal with it. It's I don't know, watching her from the very beginning until now has been a really neat thing to see. I'm actually going to end up emailing her because I want I want some of her thoughts on this. I'm going to tell her I've been using her stuff in my class and see what she says. I'm going to try to anyway. Okay. Anything else? What else? Then I want to continue here. Okay. If you will, get out your reading for today. It's the reading on the philosophical tools. Oh, this is so stupid. Come on, I already have a copy of it. All right, hold on. I'm just gonna. It's making me go to the damn folder to pick it up. Where is it? Downloads. Open? You want to open maybe? There we go. Tell you what, man, today's just one of those days. I should have stayed in bed. All my programs, even Adobe Acrobat is giving me problems. It's being very choppy right now. I wonder if I have a virus. All this stuff sounds like a virus. Hold on, just bear with me. Okay. What time is it? 2:30. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit here. And so I'm gonna be sharing a screen here. So it's important that you have that PDF out, Philosophical Tools. If my program was running right, I would just switch between, and it would be fine. But since I can't do that, and I'm gonna go between things, make sure you have that PDF out, either printed or whatever. You should always have your reading when it comes to class, always. And then because I'm gonna be referring to it. And then that'll just let me share my screen without having to share back and forth. I want to talk about a couple of concepts today. I'm going to try to get to what arguments are. If not, then I'll say something about it like right at the end. But I want to talk about some logical concepts. So let me share my screen here. Let me share my screen here. Jesus. I have to click everything twice. It's weird. Where is it? Pin notes. Okay. You should be able to see my pin notes screen. I hope. Can you see that? Okay.
Yes.
I hate this. I hate WebEx. I hate how WebEx works. It's clunky. Anyway, so this is so let's just start. Let's start on page 16. This will be 16 and 17. Let's get down some basic logical notions here. Now, your author calls these philosophical tools. He's not wrong. I don't want to go into the history of philosophy here, but just very briefly, and I'm not being arrogant here. I'm being factual. Philosophers, typically speaking, historically speaking, are the ones who have studied human reasoning, and they still are to this day. Now, you see a lot in terms of like the behavioral sciences and cognitive psychology and things like that. You see a lot of these departments talking about human reasoning and so on. Even recently, you've seen psychology departments talk about fallacies and cognitive fallacies and so on. Philosophers are the ones that have developed this over the centuries, particularly over the last 100 years or so. Philosophers are the ones who have documented the patterns of human reasoning, the patterns of argumentation, the patterns of fallacies, and so on. And of course, have been greatly helped out and expanded upon by the neuropsychologists and cognitive psychologists and so on. So, I mean, they certainly have their place. But truth be told, philosophers are the ones that deal with these concepts. We're the ones that have introduced and developed them. So I see myself as continuing in just a long and venerable history here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and call these things, I tend to call them simply, let me get my pen here, intellectual tools, rather than philosophical tools. Even though I'm a philosopher and we're reading philosophers, and he's not wrong calling them philosophical tools. But just to be a little more broad and accepting, let's refer to these as intellectual tools. Now, chief among these tools are notions of consistency and what's later is going to be contradiction. Now, we'll come back to that here in just a second. I'll write out some type of definition. Let me give you another. Let me do this actually. Let's start out with some more relevant terms for the second. Let's use this word, propositions. A proposition, or plural, is propositions. Some synonyms are going to be, in grammar, we would call them declarative sentences. We might just use the word claim. Claim or claims. A declarative sentence or a claim, what we're going to call a proposition, is a sentence. So let's give a definition here. Definition of proposition. A sentence that makes a claim about the world, where that claim is either where that claim is either true or false. So, for instance, if I said there's a cat on the fence, if I said it is 2:40 p.m., what's today? On Tuesday, January 24th, 2023. If I said the moon is made out of green cheese, if I said Sam is a monkey's uncle. All of those all of those things that I said are sentences. They have subject, verb, predicate, and they make a claim about the world. And those claims are either true or false. What was the first thing I said? I just did that randomly. So if I said that it was 12, let's say 12:41 p.m., that's either true or it's not. Now, I might not know whether it's true or not, but it is either true or it's not. And then it would be a matter of trying to find out, right? So it's either 2:40 p.m. or it's not. Does that make sense to you? If I said Sam is a monkey's uncle, that's either true or it's not true. You might not know, right? Finding out whether it's true or not is another story, but we can recognize it's the type of sentence that is either true or it's not true. Now, whether it's 2:40, I'm always going to use the current time in this example, whether it's 2:42 right now or not, and how you find out is relatively easy. You can look at a clock. Now, depending on what clock you're using, you might want to check another clock. If you're on a computer that you use regularly, that's updated regularly, and you look at the clock, there's a good chance that that clock, like I'm looking at I'm using Windows, so on the bottom right-hand corner, there's the time. It's probably correct just because of my knowledge of how clocks update. It's using the big national atomic clock to sync to. If I'm using my watch, now I just replaced the battery in this, so there's a good chance. Let's actually just check. I'll just show you really quick. There's a good chance it's true. It looks true. I don't know. Can you see? It's reflective, but yep. So it looks, give or take a few seconds, it looks like it's pretty accurate and so on. How do you determine if Sam is a monkey's uncle? Depends, right? But it's probably a little bit more difficult to do. If Sam is a monkey, then it's the type of thing that could be true. Right? A monkey could be another monkey's uncle, I guess. It's not how we normally talk, but whatever. If Sam refers to a human person, then that sentence is going to be false because humans can't be uncles to monkeys, right? The cat on the fence, that was the first thing I said. Okay, so you get the idea. When we're talking about those types of sentences, as opposed to things like if I said, so let's talk about non-propositions. Non-propositions are things like, if I said, do you know what an interrogative is? Anyone know what an interrogative is? I can't.
Asking a question.
It's a question, yeah. By the way, I can't see chat, just so you know, when I switch over like this, chat disappears and my little box is gone, and I'm not going to waste time trying to find it. So if you're going to say something, use either speak up or use the little raise hand feature that I can see. Anyway, an interrogative is a question. It's a sentence. Questions are sentences, but they're not declarative sentences. They're not propositions. Or do you know what an imperative is? Anyone
Command.
know? It's a command. So if I said something like stop or go get me a beer, right? Those are imperatives. Things like that. Or if I said something like, or do you know what an expletive is? An expletive is something like wow, something that expresses some extreme emotion. Usually, when we use the word expletive, we talk about like cuss words. But strictly speaking, it's not just cuss words. If I said wow, that's an expletive. Anyway, so all we're concerned with then are things like not things like, are propositions. We are concerned with sentences that have what we call truth value. Sentences that are either true or false. That's what we're concerned with. Now, I'm just highlighting our vocabulary here. Okay, now then, let's talk a little bit about consistency. What we're concerned with when we talk about consistency, and in a broader sense, what we're concerned with is the relationship between sentences. More broadly, even, we want to know, if you don't understand anything I'm writing because of my penmanship, please speak up and I'll try to clarify. We want to know how our, let's say, how our propositions all hold together. I think I could probably skip a line. I think that's what I'll do. That's a little tight. I don't know. It's probably fine on your end. I'm not defining it yet. I'll let you know when we've defined it. So let me mark it here. Let's give it, what color do I want to give this? Let's give this a green. So I'll mark when I'm defining something. Right now, I'm just kind of characterizing it. When we talk about consistency, we're talking about a relationship between sentences, between propositions. Particularly, we want to know how our propositions hold together. Propositions are things that we believe, right? They're the things that are true or false that we say are true or false. They're the things that we believe in. If you say, I believe mom loves me, that's a declarative sentence. And when you say it like that, the implication is that you believe it to be true. Propositions are things that we believe in. If you said, I don't know, I believe Christ is our Savior, what you're saying seemingly is that here's a proposition, it's either true or false, and I believe it to be true. So what we're asking then is take our propositions, our set of propositions, the things that we believe to be true or false, and how do they hold up together? Right? Specifically, what we're concerned with now, let's get to a definition. Specifically, we say two or more propositions are consistent, that's an N, are consistent when they can be true together. Let's say at the same time. So if you look on page 16 of your reading, just right at the bottom there, A and B, Got to be mindful of my time. I always forget what time it is. I always get too involved in what I'm doing and I forget to look. Look at those two sentences, A and B. It is always morally wrong to take the life of another human being. It is morally permissible to execute serious criminals. First thing we notice, and I'll put it in the form of a question. First thing we notice is, or I'll ask is, are they the types of sentences that are either true or false? Now, take your normal Go ahead.
You asked if they could be considered true or false.
Hold on. Yeah, just let me be very clear about what I'm asking. I'm not asking if they can be true or false together. I'm asking, are they the types of sentences that are
Yeah.
either... Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that was my answer. Yeah, they're
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So it appears that they are, right? It seems either true or false that it's morally wrong to take the life of another human being. I mean, just take your everyday experience of the world so far. And we talk that way. Take, I don't know, capital punishment. Like we're here in Texas, we're in Houston, we're, a few miles outside of Huntsville where they execute people in Texas. And if you listen to the radio or watch local news, you hear about this actually quite often here in our local news. And when someone executed, and you hear about the debates. You hear about the debates about whether it's right or whether it's wrong. People believe it's right. People believe it's wrong. They believe it's true that it's okay to execute to execute criminals, and some people believe it's wrong to execute criminals. And so that's just a specific example. So A looks like it's the type of sentence that is either true or it's false. B similarly looks like it's the type of sentence that is either true or false. Now let's ask ourselves, so does that make sense? Or are we agreed? Does anyone not agree with that? It's not a rhetorical question. If you disagree with that assessment, that those are the types of sentences that can be true or false, then say something.
The first sentence is proposition.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said the first sentence is proposition.
The first sentence, let me say it differently. Are A and B propositions as we define them? Go back to our definition. A proposition is a sentence that makes a claim about the world where that claim is either true or false. Our sentences, right? Go ahead.
Yes. I
Okay.
said yes. I agree.
Okay, good. Does anyone disagree? Okay. It doesn't seem like it. Now, here's a question. Ask yourself, can A and B be true together simultaneously? Can be actually true simultaneously? Now, hold on. Let me say something here. Sorry about my coughing. I'll just say it now. It's probably going to happen the whole semester. I've had a lingering cough since June when I got COVID last year, and the cough never went away. So, I'm going to the doctor, and one doctor thinks it's actually something surprisingly unrelated, but whatever. So, I do apologize. Now, let me say something about this. I am not asking whether or not it is true that people believe A and B simultaneously. Group A believes, conveniently enough, that A is true. Group B believes that B is true. So you have the group of people who are okay with execution. You have the group of people who are not okay with execution. Right? And yes, those people exist in Houston. Just say Houston, Texas right now. Both of those people exist. Both of those groups of people, both of those groups hold each of those beliefs respectively. It is true that people the world over believe both A and B. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking about a matter of actual fact about the world. Let me give you an example here. This is just on my mind. This happened yesterday, so I'll just use this example. If you are a Catholic, then part of the belief system of Catholicism is that you believe that that Jesus is the literal and actual Son of God. Okay? Even if you're not religious, you've probably heard this before. If you are of another faith like Islam, then you believe it's part of the central belief system of Islam that Jesus was a minor prophet. Right? Now, if you are a minor prophet, because of what a minor prophet is, and because of the word minor, M-I-N-O-R, then necessarily you can't be the Son of God. There's nothing minor about if you're a believer and you believe God exists and all that, you don't associate a pejorative like minor with God. There's nothing presumably minor about God. Presumably also, if you are a minor prophet, then you wouldn't be a divine being. Otherwise, there would be nothing minor about you, right? You wouldn't even be a prophet if you were a divine being. Because of what those terms mean, minor and prophet, if something is a minor prophet, it cannot be the Son of God. Now, let's ask ourselves, if it's actually true, like reality, like big capital R reality, that Jesus is actually the Son of God, is it possible for Jesus to be a minor prophet? And the answer is no. This isn't to say which one is actually true or not. That's another question. I'm not going to talk about that. We're talking conceptually here, right? Here's a belief system that says Jesus is the Son of God, the actual Son of God. Here's another belief system that says Jesus is a minor prophet. We're not asking which one is true. We're asking, can both of those claims actually be true together? Not do people believe those claims, but can both those claims be true actually? And the answer seems to be no, because of the concept involved of what it means to be a divinity and what it means to be a minor prophet. One has to be false and the other true, or both have to be false. or both can be false, rather. Now, people can believe things, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, can it actually be true that Jesus is the Son of God, and actually be true that Jesus is a minor prophet? Let me say it a different way. Another way to read minor prophet relative to Son of God is either Jesus is Son of God or Jesus is not Son of God. And so you don't seemingly have the case where Jesus is and is not the Son of God. Does that make sense to you? I'm not asking, does that make sense to you? Do you understand what this is asking? So then look at A and B. Same principle. If it's actually true, if it's a matter of fact that it is always morally wrong to take the life of another human being, and a serious criminal is a human being, can it be true that it's always wrong to take the life of a human being and it's morally permissible to execute serious criminals?
No.
Anybody
No.
else?
I say no as well.
Anybody else? Remember, I can't, if you're in chat, I can't see it right now, so just
What were you asking again?
right. Given that sort of discussion about Jesus and the Son of God and being a minor prophet, given that same principle, look at A and B on page 16 for those two sentences and ask yourself, can those two sentences actually be true together simultaneously? Not, do people believe those things, right? In Houston. Yeah.
I think it's kind of important to also say the way they're written, no, but they don't believe A.
Okay, so that's an important point. You're absolutely right. We're talking about those sentences as you see them. Right?
Right.
Okay, so as they are, we're not talking about a modified version or anything. We're talking about those sentences. Does anyone think that they can actually be true together simultaneously?
No.
No.
Right. It's important you recognize that. Now, we could do things, we would have to change something up to make them. Okay. Hold on. So we say that those sentences are inconsistent. Those sentences are inconsistent. And we're not saying which one is true or which one is false. We're just saying that those two cannot be actually true together at the same time. Which means, so would someone mute themselves just, unless you want to say something, just make sure you're muted. Of course, if you want to say something, speak up. But which means that if you were the type of person to say that, yes, it is true that, well, it's always wrong to kill people. What does it say? To take the life of another human. And you recognize that you're also the same person that says it's okay to execute criminals, serious criminals, then you're making a mistake, because those sentences can't be true together at the same time because of what those sentences say. Let me give you another example, and I'm not going to take as long. You should see this now. Let's stick with the sort of killing people thing. If you said it's always wrong to take the life of an innocent person, and you're the same type of person that also believes that it's okay to go to war to defend our freedom, for example, do you recognize an inconsistency there?
War kills innocent people all the time.
Very, very close. Very close. It is not a requirement of the concept of war that innocent people have to die. You can imagine a violent war where no innocent people die. It's unlikely, but it could happen. What's important here is that in the concept of an actual war, you open up the possibility of innocent people dying. They don't have to die, but it has to be possible for them to die. Does that make sense? And if that's true, then if you're the type of person that says, it's always wrong to kill innocent people, but it's okay to go to war to defend our freedom, then you're making a conceptual mistake. There's an inconsistency there because the concept of war allows the possibility of innocent people dying. They don't have to die, but it allows the possibility of it. And so those two beliefs are inconsistent with each other. They both can't be true. Something has to give, which means you would have to revamp your belief system. Maybe it actually is okay for innocent people to die under certain circumstances. Or maybe it's always wrong to go to war. Or maybe there's some third option. I'm not saying which is true, but we can immediately recognize that those two sentences, like the Jesus example, like our examples in A and B here, those two sentences, those two propositions are inconsistent with each other, which means that if you believe those two propositions yourself, then you're making a logical conceptual mistake. And in a larger society, somebody's going to be wrong or everybody's going to be wrong. Maybe there's a third option somewhere. Does this make sense to you? At this point, all I'm asking you to do is consider what we're the the concept of consistency here. I mean, you're obviously free to agree or disagree with it. That's another issue. And we're going to talk about what it means to disagree. But right now, this is what we mean. So when you get in a computer program, you know what? I think I'm going to show this to you. I'm just going to show this to you. Hold on. Let me open up I don't know if you've ever seen this. Let me open up an Excel program.
Could I see the definition for proposition, Professor?
Oh yeah. Give me 10 seconds here. Hold on. I need to find that little box so I can stop sharing, and it is nowhere to be found. Okay, you should be able to see the thing. There it is. Okay. Let me share. Let me stop sharing. I'm going to share. Let me share another program with you here. Where's my Excel program? That looks like Excel. Okay. Let me show you. Can you see my Excel sheet? Let me show you something here.
Yes.
Let me show you something here. Let me show you in a computer program what happens when you get an inconsistency. I don't know if you've ever seen this before. Okay. If I were to add 1 + 1 + 1, and in cell D here, let me make it bigger for you. Is that better? Okay. I always forget that.
Yes,
So
it is.
yeah, thanks. Anytime that happens, just let me know. I forget. Okay. So in cell D here, I'm sure you know how this works. I'm just going to go ahead and click auto sum, and it's going to add up these cells and give the total here, right? So when I click this, what do you expect to happen?
It'll put
To
it
add up
Add up to what?
Under 3.
3.
three.
3.
Okay. So don't talk to me like that. Like I'm crazy. Look, watch. This is you're going to love this. So obviously, we're not surprised. It gives us our sum, and when I click enter, 3. Is anyone surprised? No.
Nope.
Of course not. Now, let's change our formula. So here's our formula. Now, I'm going to switch. So the way this has it is that D is the total. It's where the final product is going to remain, and the final product is the sum of box A, A1, B1, and C1. Now, what if I switch the logic to include in the total the total? So previously, hold on, let me explain this. So previously, the total only had its antecedents, A, B, and C. And in D is the sum of A, B, and C. But what I'm doing now is I'm including in the sum of D also D. So D is the sum of A, B, C, and D. And then you get D. Does that make sense? So what do you think is going to happen when I enter this now?
6.
Okay, someone says 6. Do we have
It's
another
gonna
answer?
error.
So someone says it's going to error. What else?
It's gonna count D and then it's gonna recalculate D and then it's gonna recalculate D.
Okay, what else? Anybody else? Someone says 6. Someone says error. What else?
9.
Someone says 9.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one. All right. I'm going to press enter here. I get a message. There are 1 or more circular references. Now write that down. Write circular reference. Just in your notes, because we're going to come back to this probably next time. Next time, we're going to get to this next week, actually. But write it down, circular reference, and write down slash begging the question. And then slash circular reasoning. So write those three things down and just remember, we're going to come back to this. So we get this flag that says there are one or more circular references where a formula refers to its own cell directly or indirectly. So any last guesses? What value do you think I'm going to get in D now when I click OK? What do you think is it going to show there?
Maybe an exclamation point sometimes.
Exclamation point. Anybody else? Someone says 9. Someone says 6. Any guesses?
3 again, I guess.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. 0.
0.
3.
Nope, 0.
0. You get no value because it's a circular reference. In an argument, and this works in, we're going to look at this in case of an argument. And this is actually my favorite fallacy here. It's the fallacy of begging the question, the fallacy of circular reference. And it's a mistake. I'm not going to talk about it right now because I'm going to save time for it later. But the thing is that it is an error in reasoning. It's an error in reasoning, and when that happens, where's my pin notes program here? Let me share this again. We're going to come back to this.
Professor,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have to leave right now.
So as I said last time, this goes for all of you. You guys are adults. It doesn't make a difference whether you tell me or not. If you need to leave, leave. It's up to you. Just, I'm not gonna, the syllabus has the makeup and absences and all that stuff. But as adults, you don't need to tell me that you're leaving. If it's going to impact an assignment or something like that, if you're going to miss or whatever, then you need to talk to me. Otherwise, just, if you got to leave, I appreciate it. I know you're being polite. But
So do you call roll? Did you call the roll?
I did not call roll. I'm probably going to do that starting next time.
Okay.
And to be honest, I forget a lot to call roll too. So
Thank you.
yep. All right. What time is it though? Okay, there's a few minutes left. So then, that program, according to our definition, is inconsistent, and that's what happens. You get a null value. And in other programs, when your computer shuts down, it's because there's some kind of inconsistency. The computer program, the operator, the main software that runs things, when it encounters certain types of inconsistencies, it can't deal with them and it shuts down. And this is just a obvious example of why inconsistencies are bad. If you hold inconsistent beliefs, like it's okay to kill innocent people, it's also okay to go to war, then you have a problem in your belief system. You might not like it. You might not know what to do with it, but you have a problem because both sentences can't be true simultaneously. One's true, one's false, or they're both false. And there's some third option that's available to us. And what I'm asking you to consider, and what classes like this are asking you to consider, is be cognizant of that. Are you the type of person that even cares whether your beliefs are consistent or not? And these are examples of all of that. Okay. Let's go to our reading again. I'm going to see if I can squeeze something else in here. This notion of contradiction. Come on. My pad is at an odd angle here, so I had to readjust. What we're concerned now is a contradiction. A contradiction is a type of inconsistent statement. Sorry. A type of inconsistency. Specifically, let's give a definition of it. A contradiction is a sentence or sentences that simultaneously assert and deny the same proposition. So, I'm going to try to symbolize this for you so it can make immediate sense. We're going to use our example that we used above from sentences A and B on page 16 about it's always morally wrong to take the life of another human being. It is morally permissible to execute serious criminals. Now, let's interpret that. Let's be a little more precise. It's always wrong to take the life of another human being is general. A serious criminal, we understand, is a human being, yes? In this context, a serious criminal is a human being. So what that sentence really says is when it says morally permissible, it's the converse of morally wrong, right? Wrong is the opposite of permissible. Permissible is the opposite of wrong. If something is morally wrong, it's we just say wrong. If it's morally permissible, then it's right, morally correct. So what these sentences really say is sentence A says, and I'm going to represent this here. We're going to let sentence A we're going to represent that by using the letter P, capital P. P means it is always wrong to take the life of a human being. Sorry for the writing there. It's just the same sentence as A on page 16. And we're going to represent not P as it is, instead of wrong, I'm going to say okay, morally okay to take the life of a human being. Look at sentence B. All that says it is morally okay to take the life of a human being. Execute is a synonym for taking the life. It's a certain type of taking the life, but it is taking the life of. You can't execute someone without taking their life. That's what execute means. And serious criminal in this context is a human being. So all those sentences say is this. When we put it symbolically, it says P and not the case that P simultaneously. It says P is the case and P is not the case simultaneously. And that's what a contradiction looks like. That's how you logically define a contradiction. And as we know, contradictions are always false. Contradictions are always false. There's another characteristic that we don't need to talk about right now, but you can, if you allow a contradiction, then you can make any statement true. Any statement, there's a way of proving it, but this isn't a logic class and I don't want to take the time to do it. But it's just another way of showing something that's wrong with a contradiction. And so we are concerned not just with consistency, but specifically we are concerned with avoiding contradictions in our belief system. and when it comes to computer programming and so on. If you have a contradictory statement in a formula that an engineer has, whatever they build is probably going to come down pretty quick. Okay, so some terminology this time. When we come together next time, we're going to talk more fully about arguments and argumentation, and there'll be a couple other things. And then if there's enough time, there's another assignment I want to do. We might have to push that back to next week, but it just depends how everything goes. I'm willing to stick around for a few minutes if any of you have any questions or anything like that. Other than that, you are obviously free to go.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, Professor.
Bye.